welcome in studio to Jerome Mullan. And Jerome, of course, is the Honorary Consul of the Great Republic of Poland here in Northern Ireland. And Jerome, thank you for coming in. We're on the day after the police announcement of the increase in hate crime against members of our minority ethnic communities, including the Polish people, and a weekend attack on a North Belfast Polish family.
Yeah.
It's not getting any, but it's getting better, but only so very, very slowly.
Yeah, it came as a bit of a shock actually when these two recent attacks took place, because I hadn't any in recent times that affected the Polish community. There were maybe other attacks taking place with other communities possibly, but there were two very serious attacks on families in the one street in Mount Collier in the Tigers Bay area of North Belfast, and I was very angry when I heard this news, and it was, quite shocking. In fact, one of the particular individuals involved in the attack the evening before came back the following day and attacked one of the homes again.
So obviously this person is known.
Well, they've arrested somebody. The police have arrested somebody, and I've spoken to the police. Immediately it came to my attention, and they filled me in under very high, investigation that was taking place. So they were treating it very, very seriously.
You're confident that they are?
Crime. Oh, they are. Yes, I've no doubt that they are. They're treated as very serious. The problem in all of these cases, Rowan, is that they are relying very much on people giving information on the individuals that are doing this. Now, those individuals have to be known within the community, and I do ask the question: why is it, in fact, actually, that it's so difficult to, in fact, actually apprehend the perpetrators of these particular crimes? They have mothers and fathers. Yeah. They have friends. And it seems as if the communities are not prepared to release the names.
Are they frightened?
Well, I don't know whether they're frightened. Maybe they are frightened. Maybe there is a certain level of intimidation. These are very difficult areas, of course, of Belfast, as we would be aware from our newspapers. And there are, a lot of social issues, that are at play here in relation to the community. So, I mean, the question is, what is going on here? Is there a preponderance of attacks that are taking place coming from particularly the loyalist, part of the community? That's a question that basically has to be asked.
You see, it's a section of the community that should not have those problems with the Polish people, because during World War II, the Polish squadron flew with the RAF against the tyranny of Nazism.
Absolutely. In fact, actually, I mean, it's an interesting point that you are raising. There was a 303 squadron that were actually based in Ballyhalbert in North Down, and they were very much involved in the Battle of Britain. And in fact, I was invited to an event. Unfortunately, I can't go to it because it's clashing with being somewhere else on that particular weekend. But I've been invited to an event to celebrate the Spitfire aircraft that actually was very, very, very much a part of the battle. Yes, and I was invited as the Polish consul to that, along with the Canadian consul too as well, who will also be present on that. And then on the 9th of May, is of course the 70th anniversary of the ending of the Second World War. Yeah. So you're right. I mean, the thing is that from the loyalist community side of the community, if you like, they are very much connected with all of the, armed forces, and it's the Second World War. And it is very strange that, in fact, the attacks are coming from a lot of the attacks are coming. Not all of them.
No,
not
I
all
understand
of them.
this. Yep.
There are attacks coming from other parts of the West Belfast too as well. But there is a lot coming from that particular side.
You see, it is possible for people to give information without being involved. They can contact the police and let the police continue with the confidential telephone and things like that.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, exactly.
And these are families that are being driven out of their homes, their beautiful homes of young families being
Well,
destroyed.
I spoke to both families yesterday. I spoke to the lady that was interviewed, Maya. Her name was Maya. She is a single mother. She has a 15-year-old son who is at BRS in Belfast, which is just off the Antrim Road. And she is working herself. She is in the accounts department of a very big company out in Mollusk. She is just very frightened and traumatized, and has been there in this particular street for the last 4 years, and has lived in Northern Ireland for 10 years.
It's madness.
And then the other family were across the road, and they have a 10 months old baby and a 3-year-old child. And the wife, he's working. He's a forklift driver, and his wife is at home. The children, and she's very frightened. So I've had to take steps now to get them rehoused. And I was speaking to the housing executive yesterday, and I'm very hopeful that they're being treated as homeless. That's the way they're being treated.
Are there places that, where the places the housing executive will locate these folk, are these safe places? Do we know?
Are they
safe for people to be in, for Polish people to be there? Will the problem keep repeating itself wherever they go?
Well, I mean, there are a very large population of Poles all over, in fact, actually both east and south and north Belfast. In fact, that's where they have mainly gone to, interestingly. And the reason for that is because housing was available.
Yes.
And most of the housing that they are in actually are private rents. They're not actually public housing. They're not housing executive. There's some of them are. But the majority of them are private lets. So that's where, in fact, they've been able to find the houses, and they've gone to those particular areas. And by and large, I mean, they have lived, peacefully within the community. They certainly do not cause any problems themselves.
But that's our experience here with our Polish neighbours, the very most beautiful, lovely people imaginable. And I sometimes wonder, why is it happening in Belfast and it's unheard of in Newry?
Well, I mean, it's a very good question that you're asking, and what is behind all of this? Is it because there is very high unemployment in the areas that we're talking about? Is there a disaffection with the outcomes of the Good Friday agreements and all the other agreements that have taken place? Do people feel that they have been left behind by all of this, by the whole peace dividend, if you like? And I think there are some elements in all of those that are at play here. Now, I think, in fact, actually, government needs to address this particular issue within these particular areas very, very strongly. And one of the things that, has happened is that there is a huge reduction in funding for training. And this is going to have its effects. If you're not going to provide training, these young people that are wandering around don't have the skills. You'll remember yourself, Rowan, going back to the 70s in this town. You had young people coming out of schools like around areas, St. Joseph's and Mary's and others.
People were not getting work.
And they had nowhere to go. So what happened? There was training organisations grew up from that.
Absolutely. Clanrye and
for example.
the Win Work in Newry campaign.
Absolutely.
Things were being done.
You cannot allow young people to actually just aimlessly walk around doing nothing and drawing benefits from the states for doing nothing. That is soul destroying for young people. Young people should never be allowed to, in fact, actually lead that kind of life. And there always needs to be plans put in place by government, because they have the ones there that have the powers, they have the funding, and that is not being done, and that should be done.
Jerome, I know I have heard politicians from time to time speak about it, but politicians represent the people in the areas of trouble.
Yes.
And those politicians, I don't see them on a day and daily basis speaking out about the problem and showing solidarity with the victims of the problem. Politicians at a local level perhaps could do much, much more.
Yes, I mean politicians. I mean, generally speaking, will tend to be reticent about speaking out, strongly in relation to issues around racism. You've got to remember these are an immigrant community. They form a very small part of the total population, and they are mainly not voters, or they have not done.
You and I both know that the strength of civilization is in the big looking after the small.
Yes.
And if they're not doing that, maybe they should start to rethink.
Yes, well, of course, there are always exceptions, and there are people who will stand out and be brave and speak for the underprivileged, for the vulnerable, and so on. But generally speaking, in this sort of situation, you'll find that basically politicians will tend to be very careful as to what they say, and they will not, in fact, want to come out against what they see as their local community.
One of the things that is uplifting is that, you said it at the beginning of the interview, Jerome, we haven't seen a lot of it in recent months. So some little shoots of good growth are occurring somewhere.
Yes, I mean, a lot of good work has been going on over the last 12 months. I had a big spate of attacks in the early part of 2014. And we yes, and we there was a lot of work, there was a lot of connections made with local communities, church leaders, with community leaders, with politicians, and so on. There was the Unite Against Hate campaign was reactivated, and now which is being organised by the Centre for Democracy and Peace, and so there was a lot of good work being done in the background, and one had hoped that was going to have its effect, but it seems as if there is still the elements there who are prepared to go out and attack, immigrants like the Polish community.
Well,
it's extremely sad, and it's very upsetting when it happens.
We need to say it clearly here as we approach the end of the programme today, Jerome. It's our experience here in this town, in Newry and Mourne, and Down. Certainly this city. We find the Polish community the very best of human beings imaginable, and that they've caused trouble nowhere, wherever they've gone, no trouble, and that the time has come for them to be allowed to live in peace and harmony and productively in the areas of Belfast where they are being targeted.
Well, thankfully, I mean, in areas like here, Rowan and Newry has always been exemplary in the way in which they have treated the immigrant community.
Absolutely.
And there is a substantial immigrant community in this area.
Absolutely.
And indeed, you could say that for most of the rural cities and towns around Northern Ireland. It's only the few, very small number, and it's important not to blow this out of all proportion.
Well, I thank you for coming in. I think it has done us no harm at all to draw the line in the sand and let people know that it's not a good thing that's happening, and that the sooner it ends, the better.
Indeed.
Thank you
very much indeed, Rowan.
God bless you.
Yes,
good man.
good.
Jerome Mullan, the Honorary Consul for the Great Republic of Poland here in Northern Ireland. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you, Rowan.
We wish you well as we approach the end of the programme. I'm Rowan Hand. I look forward to being with you again tomorrow. So all being well, inshallah, God willing, I will be with you again, bringing you more of the same as we trawl out and around our area for the very best of stories for you, and the best of music too. Go well, take care, and be happy.